All right, so we have just seen two inference forms, simple dilemma and complex dilemma, that actually put together three claims at a time. Simple dilemma is P or Q, if P then R, if Q then R, therefore R. And complex dilemma is P or Q, if P then R, if Q then S, so R or S, right? But we have also seen that what we want to try to do is only hold two claims in our head at a time, with those exceptions, simple dilemma and complex dilemma. And our practice is, as soon as we recognize that two claims should be added, as soon as we recognize that two claims are actually dependent reasons, we should ask ourselves what follows from them and then supply it. Either it will be an actual subconclusion that's stated, or it will be an unstated subconclusion. But that's kind of competing advice, right? Because what if we're setting up a complex dilemma or a simple dilemma? Or what if the argument that we're analyzing is doing that? In that case, if we were to see two parts of the complex dilemma or the simple dilemma, the last thing we want to do is try to conclude something from them. Instead, we want to wait for the third part. So the skill that we need to develop now is the ability to recognize a dilemma, simple dilemma or complex dilemma, two claims in. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So let's take a look at 9.1. We have two claims, P or Q, and if P, then R. What I would like you to do is figure out if that is setting up a dilemma. Does that seem like two parts of a dilemma? And if so, what would the third part need to be? What additional claim should we wait for? Okay, so think about that, pause the video, come back when you're ready. Okay, so what do you think? Do we have part of the dilemma being set up here? I think we do. P or Q, if P then R. So that's two ingredients for a dilemma. We have an or statement. We have an if then statement that has as its front part one of the things that are or'd. So if we have another if then that has as its front part the other thing that's or'd, we'll have a dilemma. So what I would be waiting for is a claim that looks like this. If Q then, now what? It doesn't matter, right? Because if it's if Q then R, we have a simple dilemma, we'll conclude R. If it's if Q then something else, S, we have a complex dilemma, we'll conclude R or S. So this is setting up a dilemma. And if we see a sentence like this and a sentence like that, and we recognize that they should be added together, we won't want to ask what follows from them. We'll want to wait for this third claim. Very good. Do 9.2. Same thing. Ask yourself, does it seem like a dilemma is being set up here or not? And if so, what third claim are we waiting for? So pause the video, think about that, and come back when you're ready. Okay, does it look like a dilemma is being set up? I think so. This time, again, we have the or statement, and one of the things or'd is the front part of an if then. It doesn't matter if it's the first thing or'd or the second thing or'd. It's one of those things is the front part of the conditional. So if we have a third statement, we'll have a dilemma. What kind of a statement should that be? Well, it's got to be an if-then statement. And what does the front part of the if-then need to be? It needs to be the other thing or'd, in this case, A. What does the back part of the if-then need to be? Trick question. It doesn't need to be anything. It's either going to be the same thing as the other back part, C, in which case we'll have a simple dilemma and conclude C, or it will be something different, D, in which case we will have a complex dilemma and conclude C or D. Very good. Let's take a look at 9.3. Does it look like a dilemma is being set up here or not? And if so, what is the third part that we need? What kind of a sentence should we be waiting for if we encounter those two sentences in an argument? Pause the video, think for a bit, and come back when you're ready. This one I think is trickier because the or statement is stated second. But remember, it doesn't matter in which order we get the sentences, and it usually helps to think about the or statement first. So let's do that. X or Y, if X then Z, and I see that pattern. I have an or statement, it's stated second, but who cares? And I have an if then statement that has one of those things ored as the front part. So yep, it looks like I'm setting up a dilemma. What do I need? Well, it's going to be another if then sentence. What does the front part need to be? The other thing that's ored, in this case, Y. What does the back part need to be? Trick question, doesn't matter. It's either going to be the same thing as the other back part, Z, in which case it's a simple dilemma and we conclude Z, or it's going to be something else, in which case it's a complex dilemma and we conclude Z or whatever that thing is. Very good. 9.4, same thing. Does it look like we are being set up for a dilemma here? And if so, what additional information would we need? What should we be waiting for in order to perform that simple dilemma or complex dilemma inference? Think for a bit, pause the video, come back when you're ready. Okay, this one I think, well, let's check. It's simple, it's complicated again because we have the or statement second, but let's think about it first. M or L. Then we have an if then, sure enough, that has as the front part one of the things or. So what is going to be the claim that we're waiting for? Well, it's going to be an if then. What will the front part have to be? The front part has to be the other thing that we or. If M then. And you know what I'm going to ask by now probably. What does the back part need to be? You know the answer by now. Doesn't matter. Trick question. We can do a simple dilemma if it's the same as P. We can do a complex dilemma if it's something different. Okay. Take a look at 9.5. Same thing. Does it look like a dilemma is being set up here? And if so, what do we need in order to have either a simple or complex dilemma? Take a moment, think about that, pause the video, come back when you're ready. Okay, what did you decide? Is a dilemma being set up here? Well, I don't know. It's not obvious. But could it be? It could be. There is something, there is a claim such that if we get it, we have a dilemma. So knowing that, pause the video again, figure out what that claim would be, and come back when you're ready. Okay, well, remember the ingredients for a dilemma, right? There's an or statement, one of those, and two if-thens, and the if-thens have to be related to that or statement in a particular way. Well, what's missing? The or statement. What kind of an or statement do we need? It needs to have the front parts ored together. So what we need to do is just stick those two things together with or, P or A, and we have a complex dilemma, right? Let's double check. Either P or A always helps to think about the or statement first. If P then Q, if A then B, what would we be able to conclude from those? Pause the video, think for a bit. We would be able to conclude Q or B. Could we also conclude B or Q? Yeah, doesn't really matter in which order that or goes. All righty, take a look at 9.6, same thing. Does it look like a dilemma is being set up here? And if so, what do we need to get in order to perform or in order to carry out that simple or complex dilemma. Pause the video, think for a bit, come back when you're ready. Okay, I'll tell you what the answer is. No, a dilemma is not being set up here. If you thought it was, pause the video, look at it, and see if you can see why a dilemma is not being set up here. Okay, so pause, come back when you're ready. Okay, here's why not. We have an or statement, that's good. We have an if-then statement, okay. But is it the right kind of if-then statement? It is not. The back part is the same as one of the things that are or'd. But we don't want the back part to be the same. We want the front part to be the same. If this said if C then B, we would be in, but it doesn't. If says if B then C, right? If it said if C then B, fine, but it doesn't. It says if B then C. So why don't we just say, well, you know, order doesn't matter. Couldn't we just flip that? Oh, no, we couldn't. Let's think about Max is a poodle, Max is a dog again. If Max is a poodle, then Max is a dog. That is true, right? Because all poodles are dogs. But what about if Max is a dog, then Max is a poodle? That's not necessarily true because Max could be any other kind of dog, like my dog, which is somewhere in the room here. I'm not going to say his name lest he starts to bark, but dog, but not a poodle. Okay? Very good. So I'm just going to write no. A dilemma is not being set up here. Sorry about that. Very good. One more. Take a look at 9.7. Again, ask yourself, does it look like a dilemma is being set up here? And if so, what is the third claim that we would need to get? Okay, so think for a bit, pause the video, come back when you're ready. All right, let's compare 9.7 to 9.5. Basically, whenever we have two if-thens, we could, if we are given the proper or statement, have a dilemma. So if we were told this, E or F, we would be fine, right? E here, F here, the two front parts OR'd together. But that's not the most natural thing to do. I would not wait for E or F. Why not? Why would you not wait for that or statement and then perform that dilemma inference? Why not? Think about that for a bit, pause the video, come back when you're ready. Do you see it? Suppose we're reading an argument and we get a sentence of the form if E then F. And we're reading an argument and we get a sentence of the form if F then G. And we ask, how are they related to each other? And we decide they should be related as dependent reasons or with the plus. Should we conclude something from them or wait for a third sentence so we have a simple or complex dilemma? I would conclude something from these because this is a hypothetical syllogism fully fledged, right? So from these sentences, we should conclude. There's a conclusion that follows from those. Think for a bit and identify what would follow from those. If I say if E then F, and then I say if F then G, what follows? Pause the video, think for a bit, come back when you're ready. Do you see it? It's hypothetical syllogism. So if you haven't found it, look, it's somewhere. We've seen it. Okay? It's an if-then. Basically, these two if-then sentences connect up like train cars. The back part of one matches the front of the other. They snap together, and they leave us with if E, then G. That's what I would conclude from that. Right? I would conclude that. I would not wait for a third sentence and or statement in order to do a dilemma. Okay, very good. So I'll see you in number 10.